Have you ever stopped in the middle of texting them, mid-sentence, thumbs just hovering there, and thought, why am I always the one doing this? Not just thought it, actually felt it land somewhere deep and uncomfortable. Because here's what I want you to sit with before we go any further. All that chasing you did, the texts, the explaining yourself, the shrinking, the waiting, the hoping, that wasn't just love. That was a script. And the uncomfortable truth is, your avoidant ex was counting on you to follow it, right to the very end, without either of you ever actually naming it out loud. I want to talk about what was really happening in that relationship, not the version that sounds romantic. I loved them so much. I gave everything I had. I mean the version underneath that, the one that's a little harder to look at, because I think when you finally see it clearly, something shifts, not in a painful way, in a freeing way. So, let's start with how most people understand this dynamic. Most people get it completely wrong. They look at the anxious avoidant relationship and think, one person was too needy, the other needed space. They just weren't compatible, clean, simple, tragic maybe, but explainable. And the person who was anxiously attached, the one who was chasing, tends to walk away thinking it was their fault, that they were too much, too intense, too available, too in love, that if they just played it cooler, been a little less present, maybe it would have worked out differently. I want to stop right there, because that story, as understandable as it is, completely misses what was actually happening at a psychological level, and it lets the real pattern off the hook entirely. Research on what's called the anxious avoidant trap describes a cycle where the anxiously attached partner seeks closeness, which causes the avoidant partner to pull back, which creates more distress, which drives the anxious partner to try even harder, round and round, over and over, until someone is exhausted or heartbroken, or both. But here's what that description leaves out. Everyone talks about the avoidant pulling back and the anxious partner chasing harder. That part, yeah, people get that. What nobody talks about is this. That cycle has an architect, and it isn't you. Anxious partners often carry this belief. I have to work for love. Avoidant partners carry, people always want too much from me. And this pairing quietly reinforces both stories, which is why it feels so personal and so hard to leave. You were reinforcing their story. Every time you reached out, every time you tried harder, every time you bent yourself a little further out of shape to keep the peace. You were confirming to them that this is just how relationships work, that someone will always come after you, that you don't have to move toward anyone, you just wait. And the devastating part? You didn't know that's what you were doing. I want to tell you about a moment I think you'll recognize. You sent the message, you waited, an hour went by, then 2. You checked your phone 17 times. You started rewriting the text in your head. Should I have said it differently? Was it too much? And then somewhere in that waiting, you started bargaining with yourself. Maybe if I back off a little, maybe if I seem less bothered, maybe if I make myself smaller, quieter, easier, then they'll come back. Then they'll choose me. Then I'll finally feel secure. That internal negotiation, that constant recalibration of yourself in response to their distance. That is not love in action. That is a nervous system trying to survive a relationship that was never fully safe. Here's the thing. Small cues that might not register for a securely attached person, like a delayed text or a distracted tone, can activate the full attachment alarm system for someone anxiously attached. This doesn't mean they're overreacting. Their nervous system is accurately running the program it developed to survive an inconsistent caregiving environment. The program just isn't matched to the current situation anymore. Your body wasn't broken. It was doing exactly what it learned to do in a situation that felt exactly like the one that taught it to be afraid in the first place. Anxious attachment can develop from inconsistent care. A caregiver who alternated between intrusiveness and emotional distance. Hot, then cold. Present, then gone. Available, then unreachable. Sound familiar? Your nervous system didn't stumble into this relationship by accident. It recognized the pattern, and it thought, Maybe this time, if I just do it right, I can finally earn the consistent love I never got. That's not weakness. That's a wound that never fully healed, showing up in adult form. And this is the part that changes everything. Your avoidant ex, whether they knew it consciously or not, was running their own version of the same script. Avoidant attachment develops when a child's caregiver was consistently emotionally unavailable. So they learned something too. They learned that needing people was dangerous, that vulnerability led to disappointment, that the safest thing was to pull back before anyone could pull away from them first. So here are two people, both wounded, both running programs installed in childhood, colliding in exactly the way their nervous systems predicted. You pursuing, them retreating. And here's where it gets really interesting. Dopamine, the neurotransmitter tied to desire and motivation, is particularly active in situations of uncertainty. That approach withdrawal cycle creates an emotional roller coaster that the brain literally interprets as passion. That's why it felt so intoxicating. That's why it felt like real, deep, consuming love, even when it was hurting you. When they pulled away, dopamine dropped. When they came back, dopamine surged. You were honestly chemically hooked on a dynamic your own nervous system helped set in motion. You weren't weak for staying. That's not what was happening. But here's where I want to shift, because I don't want you to just understand why you chased. I want you to understand what it cost you, and what stopped when you finally chose yourself instead. Research shows couples where one partner is anxiously attached and the other avoidant face elevated risk of depression and anxiety over time. Not just heartbreak, actual psychological wear, the kind that accumulates quietly over months or years until you look in the mirror and barely recognize who you've become. Think about who you were at the beginning of that relationship, and then think about who you were near the end. More confident or less? More yourself? Or had you become this carefully edited version of yourself, one that watched every word, anticipated every mood, adjusted constantly to avoid the moment they could pull away again? You were so focused on them, on decoding them, on understanding their withdrawal, their moods, their silences, on becoming whoever they needed you to be in that moment, that there was almost no energy left over for the most important question: what do I actually need? Who am I when I'm not performing easy or low maintenance, or I'm totally fine with this? One partner doing all the growing doesn't change the dynamic. It just changes who's exhausted. And you were the exhausted one. Now, here's what I think really happened when you chose yourself. When you stopped chasing. When you put the phone down, or walked away, or finally let the silence be mutual, not because you were playing a game, but because you genuinely couldn't do it anymore. Something unexpected happened, not to them, to you. And actually, avoidant people aren't calm when they pull away. Their physiological stress responses, heart rate, cortisol, spike just as sharply as anxiously attached partners during conflict. So when you stop chasing, they felt it. Maybe they didn't show it. Maybe they never told you. But the system they had been relying on, your reliable pursuit, went quiet, and their nervous system noticed. But that's not the important part. The important part is what happened inside you. Because the moment you stopped organizing your entire emotional life around someone who never showed up consistently, you started coming back to yourself, slowly maybe, unevenly, definitely, but genuinely. When you remove the intermittent reward, when you stop feeding the cycle, the neurological noise starts to settle, and in that quiet, you start hearing yourself again. What you actually feel, what you actually want, what you will and won't accept. That's not a small thing. That's everything. Here's what I want you to understand about wherever you are right now, whether this relationship just ended or ended a while ago and you're still processing it. Your avoidant ex expected you to chase, not necessarily consciously, not necessarily cruelly, but that expectation was baked into the dynamic Because your nervous system is drawn to what it recognizes, not what's healthy. And if you learned early that love required effort, pursuit, vigilance, emotional distance starts to feel familiar, almost like home. The version of you that chased was doing the most human thing in the world, trying to earn love from someone who couldn't give it the way you needed, trying to recreate safety in a situation that kept feeling unsafe. But you didn't stay there, or you're choosing not to stay there now. And that choice, that singular choice to stop running after someone who keeps moving away, that is the beginning of something, not the end, the beginning of understanding what you actually came from, what you were actually looking for, and what you're capable of building when you stop spending your emotional resources on someone whose nervous system reads closeness as a threat. These patterns aren't flaws. They're deeply ingrained responses your brain developed to keep you safe. But you can choose differently. That's the whole thing. You can actually choose differently. That's the real work. Not understanding them better, understanding yourself more honestly. Because the question was never, how do I make them stop running? The question, the one that actually leads somewhere, is, why did I keep following someone who kept running away? What in me decided that was what love looked like? Sit with that. Not with judgment, not with shame, just with curiosity. Because the answer to that question is where your actual healing lives. Not in figuring out why they were avoidant, not in hoping they'll show up differently next time. In understanding the part of you that mistook the chase for connection and gently, firmly choosing something different. You didn't lose when you stopped chasing. You found yourself. And honestly, that's everything.